Hey everybody, Eric Dorward here with the Spartan Rocketry Club, continuing our Estes DARC-1 build here. And in this video, I'm going to kind of do some, I don't know, housekeeping things. I'm not going to build or continue building the core of the rocket, but there are a bunch of little side things that need to get done. One is, should be the quickest part. I'm going to take there's two shock cords in this kit. So I'm going to take the second one and I'm going to tie just two knots in it here. That should be plenty. That knot's obviously not going to hold anything because it's not attached to anything, but it does need to go through this structure that we built in the last video. And this is going to be the other half of the recovery system. So that's easy enough. This is still needs a little bit of adjustment. By the way, we'll do that in the next video. The next thing that the instructions call for, are we have to build a couple little pieces here. We'll start with the easiest one. So we're going to cut out this circular bit. So I'm going to go through the round part, or the parts here that are attached. Try to cut it out. There we go. And while I'm at it, I'm going to need this one here in the near future. So I'm going to cut that out too. Okay. Don't need the wood, at least for the time being, I don't think. If we do, bring it back later. All right. That goes away. And then I'm going to punch out the two circles from this piece of cardstock here. And this is going to be kind of like a plug. It's my understanding of what the point of this is. It's going to be a plug for this structure. It's going to be weighted. Ooh, that's a nice burr we've got there. That needs to go, because otherwise it's not going to fit. Anyway, we're going to attach these cardstock circles to the wood circle. So I really do not need much glue here at all. It's not holding anything mission critical. It's just gluing stuff onto other stuff. And I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to worry about the accuracy right there. It's not on very well right now, and that's fine. I just want to get this constructed on the quick side here. So again, adding glue. Here's the other circle, and I'm making a sandwich here, essentially. And this is why I didn't bother lining anything to begin with. Whoops. Because I'm going to do that right now. So I'm just going to hold the pieces together. I've got 4 fingers pushing it so that it is all lined up as well as it can be. I'm going to push in from the ends a little bit. And that's probably all the time that we really need on that. This might need to be sanded before its use, but we're going to, at least for the time being, just put it off to the side. All right. The next little bit of housekeeping here is we need to build the, it's called, what is it, assembly, or the recovery compartment. So there's going to be kind of like a box where the parachute is going to live inside our big nose cone. And it needs to be constructed, and most of it is going to be made out of cardstock. Now, normally I wouldn't take the time to cut this. I would just punch it out. But I got a couple reasons for this. One is there are a lot of edges to this, and I really don't want anything to get snagged or torn or anything. And the other reason is when I initially just kind of like picked this up, it really felt like it did not want to cooperate and easily come out. So might as well just cut it. All right, let's see how well I did. Oops, I missed the top ones here. All right. That's good. This one, did I miss any here? No, this one up here didn't, whoop. Well, that one came out just fine. This one, the bottom piece I didn't cut particularly well, and this top one, same deal, but that is fine. All right, I'm going to need that again in the near future, but these are going to kind of jigsaw together like so, but it's not going to make a perfect box. I'm going to use this little wedge piece that I cut out earlier as an angle alignment. So I'm going to run a little bit of glue. I'm just going to put it on the raised parts here, and then I'm going to use the dowel to spread it out, because the cardstock is so thin that it's hard to, first of all, it's hard to get the glue on it accurately to begin with because it's so narrow. But I also really don't need very much at all. See there, I've dripped. This is an internal piece. It doesn't really matter if it's ugly, but let's try to not have it be ugly. Okay, so this is going to go, and again, it's going to jigsaw in like so. I probably should be doing this on wax paper, but my cutting board, it'll definitely, the paper will definitely glue itself to the cutting board. That is a distinct possibility, but I'm not going to worry about it too much because I'm going to move it right away. So there was some glue. It's fine. It's not there anymore. Same deal with the other one here. And again, while this is a, it's not exactly a vital component, but it is an important component, it's still not going to require a lot of glue because there aren't going to be a lot of forces acting upon it. All right, clean that up. Same deal with the other side. And just like the first part, I'm going to jigsaw it in place. I'm going to hold it here for a little bit, but not too long. And again, I'm going to move it so that it doesn't set up on my cutting board with all the excess glue that I just squished through there. But all right, that's probably enough. Yeah, so I'm going to pick it off there. There's a little bit of glue. I'm going to wipe that up. And now I need to use this alignment tool. Now it shows I'm supposed to put it in like upside down. So it's going to spread these parts out. And I'm going to, or just knock them off entirely. That's a distinct possibility too. That's fine. It needs to be. If it needs to be done a second time, well, that's just fine. All right, so the part that I glued earlier didn't really want to move all that much. That's okay. It begrudgingly moved as far as it needs to go, I think. Quite. I have to give it a little manual encouragement there. All right, so the piece it doesn't matter where you put it, it should evenly spread the two sides of the compartment here. And it looks like that's pretty good at this point. All right, so I'm going to just take a look at this. It still looks like this got moved more than that. I'll pull that a little bit. Let's see if that makes it better. Yeah, that'll be fine. All right, I am not going to leave this in there because I don't want to glue this piece in. This is just to set the angles. This needs to dry, and then this is not going to happen in this, but I'm going to put glue fillets inside the cracks there. So that needs to sit. All right, the last thing that we're going to do here today, I need the actual instructions to do. We're going to make a landing strut kind of piece. This is purely decorative. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. But, I've got the parts, so might as well. So we need to actually cut, and they've given you a life-size reproduction here of what the landing, what the legs are going to look like, and you're going to have to cut the angles. Um, this is kind of tricky to do. Now you can get yourself a hobby knife and cut through based on that angle, but I find that very difficult to do. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to grab a pair of scissors, and I'm going to cut this way. And this is going to make a really ratty cut, and it's probably going to send the piece that I'm not holding flying someplace, which is kind of like par for the course doing this, as it turns out. So I'm not going to go too quickly. And I'm going to not cut my finger off. That. Okay. All right. Now that, as I said, that's a really ratty cut. I'm going to grab a piece of sandpaper here and smooth that up a bit. Now the other leg, or the other bit that I cut, it looks like, oh, that's really ratty too. Let's sand that off first. Yeah, that's a mess. Well, it's less messy now. Anyway, it looks like, yeah, this is a little longer than what I need it to be, but I don't think that's terribly important. I'm going to actually sand this a bit more. The back part was not particularly smooth. Since I've got more leg than I actually need, it's not hurting anything. All right. So the goal here is that the two joints should come together and make this leg work. And it doesn't look like I have the angle precisely right, which is not terribly surprising. Remember, I used scissors to do this, so it's actually not that bad. I'm going to sand it a bit more because the angle is a little bit too steep. So I'm going to try to flatten it out a little bit. Okay. And then the other side should come together. And that's still, this piece needs to be sanded down as well. Same deal, I need to make it a shallower angle. Did not get far enough in my sanding job there. I went through about half of the dowel. That's better. It's still not perfect, but it'll probably do. All right, so the first step is that I'm supposed to glue these together like this. This is like never going to hold. There's like no surface area. So before I frustrate myself, well, one thing is I need to get my wax paper, but I'll do that in a moment. The other thing I need to do is find this piece right here that I can use to kind of prop the two things together. What I really should have done was cut the little circles out before I cut the big piece out, but it's fine. No harm, no foul. Of course, these little things are somewhat hard to deal with. There we go. All right. So, you know what? I'm not too worried about the wax paper. It'll be fine. It sure wouldn't hurt. It does make things a little bit easier, but not wildly so. All right, so I'm going to put this joint together, at least very temporarily. Oops. I'll let it just start to tack up there for a moment. And then this piece is going to be kind of like the guide to make sure that I have the angle right. So I can put that in there too, I guess, if I really wanted to. In fact, what probably makes even more sense is, so I'm going to let that kind of sit a tiny bit, and I'm going to put glue on the outside of this top two, and between the glue that I used to make the joint and the glue on this piece, I should get a reasonably strong, stable joint. Oop. And not surprisingly, the glue between the two dowels was not holding in any meaningful way. So I'm just going to hold this together for a while. Yeah. There is a little sled piece that's going to go with this too. And yeah, that's going to be fun and exciting. We'll get to that momentarily here. All right. Let's see how this works. I mean, it's stuck to my cutting board, of course, but what I really want to do is make sure that I don't break the joint when I move it, which is exactly what I did. Ah, all right, let's try it again. One of the benefits to wax paper, but honestly, glue sticks to wax paper too. So let's just move it up here. See how that did. Well, it's holding together. It's okay. It's not great, but it'll do, I guess. All right. I don't know that we're gonna. That really needs to dry for an extended period of time, so we might not be able to finish this right now. The last thing that we need to do is make the little sled foot for this, and that's going to be made out of this piece right here. And let's punch that out. Ooh, well, that's not what I wanted to do at all. It snapped, but fortunately, it's supposed to do that because there we go. These two pieces are going to have to, I'm going to have to sand them in order to get them to match up just right. And yeah, that's not going to be fun. This is going to have to be kind of an eyeball thing. So I'm going to sand this piece like so, kind of bevel it so that it matches up right. Okay, it's as good a guess as any, I suppose. This piece here as well needs to be beveled. This should be, this is actually pretty shallow. Well, yeah, should be kind of like that. That's probably not far off. This should be sanded just a little bit more. And then these two will go together like so, like so. Yeah. This one's going to be really hard to get the angle right because all I can rely on is the diagram of my instruction. There's not going to be anything holding it together other than glue. So, okay, we'll give this a go. Yeah, I won't be able to rest it. I mean, I can rest it on its side, but I won't be able to rest it on anything else to help give it its shape. Fortunately, this is purely decorative, and if it doesn't get quite the right angle, it does not matter. So I'm not even going to bother with the directions, the getting the angle right, because I honestly do not care. It does not matter enough for me to spend that kind of time. But it would be great if, there we go, that's better. It's a little better anyway. there's such a tiny amount of surface area here that the glue is not going to do, well, it's going to have a hard time accomplishing its job. All right. I think my best bet at this point is to let this dry completely. And it probably is going to need some glue reinforcement in the joint, which, by the way, I guess I said I'd do this off camera, but the video's been long enough. I'm going to quickly put fillets in here as well while I'm thinking about it. These actually matter because while this isn't, like a vital component to the rocket, it does have some structural value to it. All right, so let's spread that glue out. Again, this is an internal component, so that's not enough glue. Basically, don't have a fillet here. Let's add a little more. There we go. And that ought to do it. All right, so I'm not gonna show myself like putting a fillet on that. It'll be fine. We'll let this stuff dry. Lots of stuff needs to dry, and then we will pick it up in the next video. So thanks for watching. I'll see you then.